Well, hello! It's time for another exciting episode of Pens in Use. This is the show where I talk about the fountain pens and inks I've been using throughout the week. So, let's dive into it. If videos like this interest you, where I talk about fountain pens both new and old and at all price points, I would invite you to subscribe. And anything got taken to the super weird land in local news where you live? Let us know down in the comments. So, let's dive into it. Alright, so these are the pens that I've been using this week. Before I go through them, the first one was supposed to be a Tuckersharpe because I usually try to put the pen I just reviewed this week up as a first one. But I found when I uncapped it to fill it, and I apologize if the focus isn't perfect. I'm still using my live streaming camera, and I don't really get a good preview when I use this thing. So that's annoying. But anyway, this part stayed in the cap, and when I took it apart, this metal part is no longer attached. So I gotta figure out how to reattach it. I guess I'll have to use like wood glue or something. I'm not 100% sure what I will use. And then it also came disattached from the barrel. So, and I can put it back together. But then it is not very firm, so it's gonna it comes apart again quite easily. So, not sure what I'm going to do there, but you can see the sack, and I'm going to do a video one of these days on how to resack a pen, so I guess you got a preview there. But, bad news on the Tuckersharpe front. In the rest of the pens, we have the Diplomat Aero, a Cora, still filled, I keep refilling it with the same ink, Pilot Custom 823, I have a Platinum Izumo, Lamy 2000, Pelikan M1000. I wonder if the wire from this camera is in view. Centropen 10016, Centropen 1320, Sailor 1911, and a Lamy 25P, which I just inked up because I wanted a better green ink. As always, I'll be showing this in my Cognitive Surplus notebook. So my first pen is this Diplomat Aero. I like the flame finish on it. It was a little bit hard starting this week because it sat for a few days. Somebody had told me that they had experience with it drying out, so I may have get this bookmark out of the way. So I may have come close to experiencing that. So it's a broad. The ink in it is Noodler's. Matahari's Cordial. I had a comment from someone this week that they don't like how all these names of inks don't match their actual color. And, I get that. The name Matahari's Cordial is a very evocative name. But if I tell you it's the name of an ink, you'll be like, okay, so what color is it? You don't know from that name. So I think they had a valid point there. So there you go. I like this color, so when the bottle goes empty, I'll buy another one and hope it's the same, because it's Noodler, so you never know. The next pen is a Cora. Turns out I've been misidentifying the ink in this pen ever since I filled it. So I refilled it with the same ink so I could get a couple of weeks getting properly identified. So this is it, because it was empty. So this is a Cora. The ink in it is actually, I've been saying Diamine Damson, it's not. It's Krishna. So from a totally different country. Writer's Night. And again, Writer's Night might be another one. You'd say, yeah, but what color is it? Although night implies dark. But writer really adds nothing. Some of the Krishna inks, you don't, as somebody living in North Dakota, I don't recognize the association, but some of them are named after actual plants in or different places in India. So I don't know if there's significance behind this name, but I like it. It's a nice dark purple. This pen, we'll unscrew the end here, get it right. So this is my Pilot Custom 823. I keep refilling it with the same ink. I've been writing a lot of thank you letters lately because of some charity stuff I've been doing. Like I needed more to fill up my time. And so I've been using this ink and this pen. So this is Pilot Custom 823 with a broad nib. And the ink in it is Iroshizuku. Fuyu-syogun. I think I read somewhere that that's like Old Man Winter or something. Anyway, it's very nice gray. Kind of a bluish gray. I really like it. I've got a small bottle of Iroshizuku, a different gray to use up, and then a larger bottle of Omas gray, which is no longer made, to use up. When those are both used up, I think I'm going to get a full bottle of this, and that'll be my gray ink. Because I like it. Just looks good. Now my next ink is the other bottle of gray ink. People last week were commenting that it looked brown. Of course, I bet this is awful in this camera. But this is my Platinum Izumo fountain pen. This pen definitely gets babied. It came over to the table here in a pen kimono, and it will go back over, and it stays in a pen kimono except when it's being written with. Where did the pen kimono go? Oh, it's underneath. It came with it, but yeah, because I'm going to protect this puppy. But the ink in it is the one that people commented last week, but I think it was kind of dried out in that pen. So we're going to try it in this pen. So Platinum. Okay, it does still look kind of brown. Platinum Izumo. This has a coarse, which is Platinum's word for double broad, cursive italic nib, which means it's cut kind of sharp and it's wider than it is, anyway. Cut kind of like a blade. The ink in it is a Iroshizuku. Kiri-same. And I guess we'll put the swatch over a little bit. Maybe we'll slide the notebook over. My preview is awful. Don't know how to make it bigger. And I don't really know what I'm seeing. I can just kind of barely tell where I'm writing. I'm just going to flip back for a minute. Maybe it was 2 weeks ago, because I'm not seeing it on that page. Oh, no, I am seeing it. So here is the swatch from last week, right here, this week. So yeah, it definitely got dried out in the pen. But it does have kind of a brownish character to the gray. I like this blue-gray better. Of course, my Lamy 2000 has been my traveling companion. Oh, and I see she's ready for a new drink of ink. So the Lamy 2000. 2, 3. Fine nib. And the ink in it is Aurora Black. Not the friendliest ink on lower quality paper, which it's been seeing a lot of since I'm using it at school. But on the other hand. The Lamy 2000 has been decent about restraining it. So I've been able to use this as I choose. It's a nice black, it just not well suited for all my writing purposes. Something like Parker Quink black, Lamy black, or something like that would be better. Alright, this is the Pelikan M1000. Hope that was on frame and in focus. This has a medium nib. I kind of want a fine nib on it, but this is what I have. And this is actually one of my favorite inks. It keeps getting discontinued. Right now it is currently discontinued. I may or may not have a few bottles of it as backup, but anyway, the ink in it is Sailor, Jentle, Epinard. I love the smell of Sailor inks, and this whole series of Jentle inks I just like. They have, well, they had kind of retro looking packaging. Who knows what they'll look like when it comes out again. I never liked their small, really flat bottles, but apparently the bottle design has changed. They hold less ink now, and they're more upright, so it's going to be a long time before I'm buying any more ink. So I guess I'll find out when I buy some Sailor ink again. For now, I'm just content trying to use up the bottles of ink that I have, because I have a lot of them. Alright, this is Centropen 10016. A few weeks ago I had a 10014. So basically I think it's the finials that are different. But I love the finish on it. So Centropen 10016. And I don't think there's much for a nib size, but I do know that there's an ink in it that I can't remember what it's called. Give me a second. Open up my script again. Iroshizuku. Asa-gao. So you've been seeing a lot of Iroshizuku ink just lately, because those are small bottles. So those are ones that I can use up relatively quickly. Like that Fuyu-syogun is almost gone. The Iroshizuku Kiri-same will replace it as my gray. And we'll use some of these Iroshizuku, because I have several blues. One brown that's almost gone. Centropen 1320. I hope that's on screen. Oops, and I unscrewed it, and that's what happened, because I forgot it's a slip cap. But there's its nice nib. Sort of a different sort of design. Smoother writer than the other Centropen, even if it's not as classy looking. Ooh, this is not a Iroshizuku, because I actually used up my Iroshizuku of this color, the Aero. So this is Rohrer and Klingner. Blue Mare. Which I think is quite attractive, just as much as the Iroshizuku Aero was. I have one more bottle in this family. No, I guess two, because I've got a little bit of Monteverde turquoise that's similar to this. But I've got a bottle of Lamy turquoise also to use up. So it'll be a while. And those are larger bottles, but I'm just... yeah, so there's the Aero next to it. I think they look... they're not the same, but they're similar idea. An ink guy did a review of the larger version of this pen. This is a 1911. I can't remember if it's a standard or small, but anyway, it has a zoom nib on it, which he was reviewing. Let me just see if I can see my preview screen. Okay. I hate this. Alright, so unscrew it. So a zoom nib is cut so you can get different widths depending on how you hold the pen. So if you hold it low, like that, you get a broad. If you hold it more upright, you get a very fine, and everything in between. This is Iroshizuku. Fuyu-gaki. I'm just going to try and scroll here so I spell it correctly. Didn't quite fit, but we made it work. Kind of a frictiony nib, but I like the feedback. No, it's a nib designed more for Japanese writing than the type of writing I do, but hey. This is the Lamy 25P, which I got in a trade with, traded a Pilot Fermo for this, with ODE. And then I put a Lamy 2000 nib on it that I had floating around, which made it into quite a nice pen. So Lamy 25P, the nib in it is a medium, cursive italic. No, it isn't either. It's a medium oblique, which means it's cut at a slant, which is why I'm holding it kind of rotated. The ink in it is actually almost gone. Rohrer and Klingner. I've been using a lot of this particular color lately. I like it. So someday this bottle will get replaced. Alt Goldgrün. I was noticing on the paper towel where I cleaned it, after I filled it, that it did leave some gold in the heaviest parts of the ink. I don't see sheening when I write with it, but something going on there. Hope you saw that. Alright, so those are the pens and inks I've been using this week. Very sad about that Tuckersharpe. I was looking forward to using that again, but I'll have to figure out how to fix that. I'm not sure what I will do yet, but I'll figure out something. In the meantime, I had a much later topic planned, but so I talk to my parents every so often. They live almost 2,000 miles away, and they asked me about an incident that happened in a town of about 40 people here about 60 people here in North Dakota. More in the eastern end of North Dakota than the end where I live, but apparently it made national news. And so I did a little research on it. I found out what kind of national news it was making. And so I want to jump into that a little bit because there's a lot of misconceptions and misinformation going on around it and a lot of hyperbole. I don't like to just jump to conclusions when I hear something. Too often you end up acting on something that's incomplete or even incorrect. But that hasn't stopped pundits from jumping all over a recent killing in North Dakota. People, including former presidents, current sitting senators, and representatives. So I want to talk about what really happened there and what we actually do know about it. I did not put any links to these pundits because I don't want to give them any free publicity. I did provide a link to the Fargo forum, which talks about some of it, so you can start your investigation there. And I provided links, of course, to everything I'm saying. So a 41-year-old man is accused of striking and killing 18-year-old Kaylor Ellingson with his vehicle after a street dance in McHenry, North Dakota, a town of about 60 people. So that kind of got my interest, because 41, I mean, that's younger than me, but not a lot younger. So this is a guy close in age to me, and what's this 18-year-old done that he's got to go after him with his vehicle? And McHenry, I don't think I've actually been to McHenry, but I've been very close. According to the criminal complaint, and I'm not going to mention the guy's name because I just don't believe in giving free publicity to the perpetrators of the crime. According to the criminal complaint, the man acknowledged drinking alcohol before the crash. In fact, he was found later to have a blood alcohol level of 0.08. He left the scene, but then he returned to call 911. And then he returned home before the officers actually arrived on site. The complaint alleges that he told investigators that he struck Ellingson because of a political argument. It also alleges that he claimed in the 911 call that Ellingson was part of a Republican extremist group. The man also alleged that Ellingson called others to come get him. So far, the investigation has not found any evidence to support this claim. The man is currently out on a $50,000 bond. He is charged with criminal vehicular homicide and failure to report the crash immediately to law enforcement. On Friday, when I was originally going to film this, I just did a quick search on Google and said, I got to add a little more to the story. So I'm going to be appending more to the story, but I will just note that the charges have now been upgraded to murder, which is a Class AA felony, and I'll talk more about that later when I give you the update. So prosecutors allege that moments before he was killed, 18-year-old Ellingson called his mother to come rescue him because the man was chasing him. The man objected to the bail, saying, "I have a job, a life, and a house, and things I don't want to see go by the wayside. Family that are very important to me." I am unclear if the man is married or not, or if he just means family. He lived in the town of Glenfield, which is nearby. I've been through Glenfield. In fact, when I get my Highway 200 video put together, you'll get to see Glenfield. He under the original charges, because like I said, they've been upgraded now, he would face a minimum of 10 years in prison due to the DUI that's on his record. Now, this case picked up national attention. Even my parents asked me about it, and they asked about the low bail. And apparently the bail was set, again, based on the charges and what they knew at the time. I would say, especially since it's right-wing pundits picking up on this, North Dakota law enforcement is not exactly a hive of left-wing political operatives. It's not. So political pundits and politicians have weighed in on this and attempted to link it to a speech given by Joe Biden warning against political extremism. And I'm not going to go through what all these people are saying. What I will say is that they are speculating and not responding to the facts as we know them or knew them then. Of course, the target audience of these pundits is unlikely to fact check, and the pundits are never going to come back and say, "Whoopsie, kind of jumped the gun on that one." So my personal rule of thumb for things like that, if a story just plays perfectly into what I believe, my own biases, I better make double sure of it before I try sharing it. We don't actually know the politics of the driver, and I haven't heard much about the politics of the 18-year-old either, to be honest. We're just speculating. We don't know. You might want to speculate on why a 41-year-old would strike an 18-year-old with his vehicle. But then, of course, alcohol was involved. We also know that the man said right after the incident, and we also know what the man said right after the incident and while still under the influence of alcohol. Now here's where the update comes in, because there is more. The latest update I found we have now upgraded the charges to murder. I have not heard what happened with the bail then. If he's still out on bail, if the money amount for bail has changed, I do not know that. Couldn't find that. But it did upgrade the charges to murder, which is a Class AA felony that could result in life imprisonment without the possibility of parole. The autopsy revealed that Ellingson was not hit by the car. He was run over. He also called his mother twice before being run over. So my question would be, how did he end up on the ground to be run over? Which suggests there was some kind of a physical altercation that took place, but I don't know. That's speculation. But this update just makes me more sure that I'm right. We have pundits, including a former president, seeing some kind of a media conspiracy of silence to cover up a cold-blooded killing by a maniac and a radical left stupid person, according to a former president's words. But it's all built on nothing but the words of a man who had just killed someone and words that he spoke while he was intoxicated. I think we can all agree that this was a terrible tragedy. They had the funeral. There was quite well attended. It is still unclear what transpired between these two, but it's definitely a very shaky foundation for all the outrage that it's getting. If you want to see the effects that these pundits have on people, go to their articles. Read the comments section underneath them. It's a toxic stew. So, where I'm headed with this, don't jump the gun. Don't jump to conclusions. Especially if it seems, perfectly matched to your biases. Take a minute and research it. Find out if it's true. It might not be true. In this case, it sounds like it was not. We don't know why he was calling this guy a political extremist, but we also don't know this guy's politics. And like I said, I think the operative word in the whole story is alcohol. So we may never know the whole story. It will be interesting what comes out in the trial. So I will try to keep updated, but of course life happens. But the investigation is showing no real political link to it. But one of the officers doing the investigation noted that sometimes people say things right away in the heat of the moment that aren't totally true. So we'll just have to wait and see. And that's not nearly as exciting as some crazed left-winger incited by Biden's words going and murdering some Republican. Not as exciting, but I think it's better to know the truth. And I've given the example before of the kid from the Catholic private school, I forget his name, in Kentucky that was in Washington, D.C. for an anti-abortion march. He got filmed kind of with a weird smirk on his face while a Native American was hitting a drum right in front of him. And the immediate reaction is, whoa, he's trying to intimidate that Native American. That's really racist. And it turned out that was quite a story, quite a complicated story. And there was a lot more going on, including a third group. And I don't want to get into all the particulars, but the thing is, several media outlets ended up being sued over that because they jumped to conclusions before they knew the full story. There was a part of me that thought I should share that on Pens in Use, and then I thought, no, because I just couldn't find enough information. And boy, am I glad I didn't share it till later. Because again, the facts came out, and it was a much more complicated story than it seemed. So I think we've got the same thing going on here. So rather than jump to conclusions that left-wingers are out to murder right-wingers now because Biden incited them, and here's an example in rural North Dakota, let's find out what actually happened. And like I said, I think the operative word in the whole story is alcohol, not political extremism. So, anyway, that's my little heartwarming tale from the Heartland. So, there's nothing wrong with being second to the story in cases like that. Find out what actually is going on. So, I want to thank you for watching. Always fact check. Especially the more outrageous it seems, the more you probably need to fact check. So I want to thank you for watching. And if videos like this interest you, where I talk about fountain pens both new and old and at all price points, I would invite you to subscribe. And on the topic of this story, have you heard this story? How widespread is it? Again, my parents heard it, but then they know that I live in North Dakota. They found out somehow. And so they may naturally get North Dakota news just because of that connection. But 2,000 miles away, and they heard this story and were asking me about it. And we've got national politicians commenting on it. So have you heard this story? How twisted has it gotten where you were at? And, well, thank you for watching. We'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.